So, in the last chapter, one of the things that we discover is that Koby has taken a bullet in the back for Zoro as he tries to free him. And just as a small reminder, these videos were pre recorded, and so I did not know that Zoro's name was changed to Zolo in the Viz manga. So I asked for you guys to bear me a little bit of patience simply for the fact that these are pre-recorded up to the first two volumes. So with that being said, let's get further back into the recap. Now, after this happens, or excuse me, before this happens, one of the things that we see is that Luffy has destroyed the statue of Captain Morgan, and he's now taken Helmeppo prisoner, and they are running through the Navy base that Captain Morgan is running, and is presumably so Luffy can look for Zoro's sword. So with that being said, let's just jump further into this review. Whoa, chapter 5. Are you kidding me? That is one hell of a backstory. That's all I gotta say right now. That is one hell of a backstory. Holy shit. That is good. That is a good backstory. That is really good. We found out a lot about Zolo, and what we found out is enough to where I kind of like this guy now. Like, I kind of like this guy. This is so fucking cool. So, getting into the backstory, because you can tell that's what I'm like the most excited about, yo. So, Zolo's backstory is we see him and he's training to beat this girl Kuina. And the problem is she's completely mopping the floor with this guy. And at first I'm thinking, well, she does look to be a bit taller than him. And turns out she is older than him. Yet at the same time, we find out that Zolo at that age is actually stronger than some adults. So it just shows you that this Kuina person is actually really powerful. And yet one of the things that happens is we find out that yes, she's powerful, but she's growing weaker. And it's because, Oda's taken the approach that, as women get older, they get weaker. And she even sees her budding breast, the breast that she's beginning to develop, as a sign of weakness. And she tells Zolo, she says, like, hey, you do understand that, all of you, not just you, but all of you will become stronger than me. It's just nature. And while it is true that, men tend to be stronger than women, one of the things that is scientifically proven is that women, when they train, can put on muscle faster than men. So that's one of the things I kind of take a little issue with, because when I took a lot of sports sciences classes in college, that was one of the things that I learned, and I was pleasantly surprised by that, because I didn't know that I always thought, because men typically, a lot of guys who work out have like the big bulging muscles and everything. And I thought, well, women, they don't do that. And so that's actually, something that's pretty interesting. So what was, kind of cool about that is the fact that when she and Zolo are in their little sparring match, right away, Zolo comes to her and says, like, you know what? I got real swords. Let's fight this time. And we find out that at the time, Zolo was using a two-sword style. And this actually leads to us explaining why he uses three swords. And I'm going to touch on that in a second. So they get into their match, and, Kuina makes short work of him. And she places the sword down right by his head and says, this is 2001 times I've actually defeated you. And Zolo, his pride's hurting. And, we're seeing yet again how his character is continuing to develop, because he accused Kuina's father of teaching her special stuff, because he is saying that because she's your daughter, you're teaching her stuff you're not teaching your other students. And, for the most part, the sensei is saying that's not actually true. And I like the little scenes that we get where, you actually see Zolo and he's going through and he's training and he's working. So I thought that was pretty interesting to kind of see that, because it just shows you that this guy that we have as a demon beast now, as everyone's referring to him, at some point he started off with a really humble beginning. And I like that. I like that. And it explains why his strength is so much higher than everyone else's, because at a young age he was already stronger than a lot of adults. So it makes sense that as he matures and he grows into his body, that he's going to be stronger than a lot of the adults now. So I thought that was pretty interesting. But what's really bad about this backstory, and bad in a good way, is the fact that Kuina looks like she falls down some stairs, and we don't actually see her do it, but she has a white towel over her eyes and she's presumed to be dead. And that's very sad because that was a character that, I took a lot of interest in. But, for those of you who don't know, or I guess none of you guys will know, but I typically tend to gravitate towards the stronger female characters. And I feel like she was a character who had a lot of potential, but because she was being shown in a backstory, it's just like you knew she wasn't going to be there. I mean, that's typically how these things run in shonens. So, on one hand, I'm pleasantly surprised that we see a strong female character this early on, and yet on the other hand, I hate the fact that she was kind of snuffed out. But what's really cool is the fact that Zolo says like I made a promise to her that we were gonna fight over the title of the greatest swordsman in the world, and now she's dead. I'm gonna become the greatest swordsman, and the whole reason why Zoro has this flashback, the whole reason why he has it is he is facing certain death because Captain Morgan has shown up, and he's saying, you guys are trying to overthrow me. They have the guns all trained on Zoro and Koby, and you can tell he's staring death in the face. Now, what's also really interesting about this is the fact that Zoro has been made aware that Helmeppo has essentially betrayed him. He's essentially, led him on saying, I'll give you 30 days, and if you can survive, you'll live. You live. But that's not actually the truth. Instead, one of the things that you find out is that Koby has told Zoro that you're going to die in 3 days. This guy, he was trying to betray you. And that's when Luffy just shows up with these swords. And that comes after this hilarious sequence where he sees the Navy men and he's like, oh shit, they have guns. Well, guns can't hurt me, and he makes Helmeppo useful. And he ends up making him his shield, and he uses him as a human shield as he runs through all the people in the Navy. And I thought that was a really hilarious sequence right there. I really like seeing that part. But what was also interesting about that scene is the fact that as Luffy sees those swords, he says, well, which one of these is Zolo's? And that's the first hint that all three are Zolo's swords. And so it shows you that last sword that he got was actually Kuina's sword. So I think that's pretty cool, the fact that he's got a little memento to remind him of Kuina. And when he does become the greatest swordsman, in a sense, he's using her sword to do it. So she's right there with him. So that's a good bit of symbolic writing. I really like that little tidbit that, Oda kind of threw in there. Now, what's really interesting is the fact that when Luffy reaches Zoro, he has the sword, says, I didn't know which one was yours, but here you can take all three. Zoro says, well, I practice a 3-sword style. And Luffy lays it out for him. He says, like, hey, look, if you fight with me, the world government is going to look at you like a villain. If you stay here, you can be a good citizen and die. Which one is it going to be? And that's when Zoro looks at him, and he's got this really cool expression on his face, right? And he's like, hey, well, Koby's alive. I'm going to be a criminal regardless. I ain't trying to die. Hey, buddy, you got yourself a pirate. And it's essentially, that's how Zoro joins the crew. So, I mean, I like that. That's actually pretty damn funny just to see the huge turnaround. And what that is also interesting about is the fact that what we are seeing here is that Luffy was able to see a problem. He needed Zoro to join his crew. Zoro did not want to join his crew. He found a way to leverage him into it, and then to further push him on there, he leaves him with no option but to join. And that's very smart. That shows a level of intellect that I didn't think that this bumbling country bumpkin Luffy actually had. So I like that. I really like that. That was really, really, really impressive. So I want to know to you guys, like, what were your thoughts about this flashback with Kuina? And I want to know if you were Zolo and you had a rival, and just use this in real life. Do you have a dream or something where you have a rival that you're competing with? What would you do if that person was no longer able to pursue their dreams like you and to push you towards another level of greatness? And if you do have somebody like that in your life, what's that relationship like? But as always, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, guys.